Audio Jungle.
In the streets, so don't stop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the old days, don't drop out. So don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the old days, no time to flop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the old days, no time to flop out. So don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the old days, no time to flop now. In the streets, don't stop now. DJs, LMP. Just right now, in the old days, don't get the drop out. Don't stop how deep is LMP. Just right now, in the old days, don't get the drop out.
Hello and welcome back to SNN Sports by K.L.P. Entertainment. Through 17 starts, Browns QB Deshaun Watson well below expectations. Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson stood behind a lectern after the worst statistical game of his career. In a 33-17 home loss to the Dallas Cowboys in Week 1, Watson posted an 8.3 total QBR and averaged 2.6 air yards per attempt, both career-low marks. He was indecisive, his downfield targets were erratic, and he was sacked 6 times as his offensive line struggled. In the aftermath, Watson was asked if such a performance could shake his confidence. "Hell no," Watson answered. "I'll always be Deshaun Watson, regardless of whoever else says otherwise." Watson, at least the Pro Bowl version who the Browns hoped would catapult their roster to Super Bowl contention, has failed to appear since the franchise traded 3 first-round picks to the Houston Texans and gave him a fully guaranteed $230 million in March 2022. And 9 months after Joe Flacco, now with the Indianapolis Colts, helped lead Cleveland to the playoffs while Watson was sidelined by injury, the team has regressed with Watson back as starter. Watson took a winding path to a season's worth of starts in Cleveland. He started by serving an 11-game suspension after more than 24 women accused him of sexual assault and inappropriate conduct during massage sessions. Another lawsuit, filed in Harris County, Texas, in September accusing Watson of sexual assault and battery in October 2020 was resolved, the lawyers for both sides told ESPN on Monday night. The NFL had been investigating the complaint but declined to comment. Injuries, including the fracture in Watson's throwing shoulder that required season-ending surgery last November, have undercut his time on the field, which has included few flashes of his previous brilliance but is littered with frustrating displays. Watson made his 17th start as a member of the Browns on Sunday in a 34-13 loss to the Washington Commanders, Cleveland's 3rd straight defeat. The loss was headlined by more struggles from Watson as 5 straight games without 200 passing yards is the longest stretch of his career, protection issues and procedural penalties, including a delay of game on 4th down near the goal line that led a frustrated Watson to walk off the field and left coach Kevin Stefanski watching incredulously on the sideline. The Browns are 9-8 in games Watson has started, but his stats and performance have paled in comparison to his time with the Texans, when he made 3 Pro Bowls and was regarded as one of the NFL's premier quarterbacks. His 34.3 total QBR ranks 32nd of 34 qualified passers, his 67.7 QBR in Houston ranked 3rd. As the Browns continue to push through their 1-4 start with Watson as their starter, Stefanski ruled out a change Sunday. Cleveland is waiting for Watson to return to his previous elite form. Watson hasn't been able to live up to the expectations that have come with one of the biggest contracts ever. And as his supporting cast has been inconsistent, the 29-year-old has failed to lift the group around him as he did so many times in Houston. "This is not a one-person issue on offense," Stefanski said after the Browns lost to the Commanders. "We have the guys. We have the coaches. We will get it fixed." The Browns faced 3rd and 9 toward the end of the first half of their Week 4 game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Watson took a shotgun snap and began to drop back. By the time his feet were set, Defensive end Tyree Wilson was barreling down on him. Watson took a hit from Wilson as he launched a downfield pass to wide receiver Amari Cooper, who was sprinting past a flat-footed cornerback in Jack Jones. The attempt, though, fell harmlessly down the sideline as Cooper veered inside. As Watson got to his feet and the Browns' offense headed off the field, cameras caught him yelling and clapping his hands at right tackle DeJuan Jones, who allowed Wilson to blow right by him. Backup quarterback Jameis Winston was also later seen being held back by teammates on the sideline as he animatedly tried to address DeJuan Jones. Watson would later downplay the heated exchange, just trying to be great, that's it, and Jones accepted responsibility for the blown block. But the signs of mounting frustration were a microcosm of the Browns' offense through the first month of the season. Cleveland would go on to lose, 20-16, starting the season 1-3 for the first time under Stefanski. "We need to score more points than we're scoring right now," Stefanski said after the game. "So, we need to make sure that we're giving our guys an opportunity to execute the game plan, whatever it may be, run or pass, and just play a clean football game, take care of the rock, score some points. But that's our focus, less so outlining what we believe the identity to be. We just have to go play clean football." In the offseason, Cleveland fired Alex Van Pelt and brought in Ken Dorsey as offensive coordinator to help shape a revamped, spread offense better suited to Watson's talents. With Watson returning from shoulder surgery and an active participant throughout spring workouts and training camp, the team held him out of the preseason. There was hope his play would be closer to his time with the Texans. But through 5 games, the Browns have fielded one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Cleveland is the only team that has failed to total 300 yards in a game this season. The Browns have scored fewer than 20 points in all 5 games, their longest streak to start a season since they were an expansion franchise in 1999, according to ESPN research. And the offense has converted 18% of its third downs, the 4th worst conversion percentage by any team in its first 5 games of a season in the past 45 seasons, and worst since the expansion Texans in their first season in 2002. "The offense is going to go as far as I go," Watson said after the Commanders game. "So, at the end of the day, we're not doing enough offensively. As a quarterback, you take all the pressure. You take all the heat. You take all the blame. I've got to find ways to bring everybody else along with each other, find out how we can go out here on Sundays and eliminate all the mistakes that are going to cause us to get behind the 8 ball. Watson's 21.0 total QBR this season is worst among all qualified passers. His 20.7% off-target rate is 3rd worst. And while Watson has been sacked a league-high 26 times, he has invited pressure at times by holding the ball his 2.95 seconds on average before throwing is the 6th longest in the league. Since trading for Watson, the Browns have tried to bridge Stefanski's system with Watson's talents. But so far this season, it has resulted in the worst iteration of the signal caller. Of 386 quarterbacks to record at least 175 passes in their first 5 games of a season, Watson ranks last in yards per attempt, 4.8, according to ESPN research. "I actually think he's still got a lot of the arm, talent and ability, maybe not quite as mobile as it used to be," an NFC coach told ESPN. "It just looks like he's disjointed, and the entire offense is disjointed. There doesn't appear to be a lot of trust in what's going on around him, and that can lead to bad play really fast. People underestimate how important that is. I don't think it's talent or scheme, they just aren't on the same page." Injuries and inconsistencies around Watson haven't helped. The offensive line has regressed and been in flux since training camp, as starting tackles Jedrick Wills Jr. and Jack Conklin made their way back from severe knee injuries that ended their 2023 seasons early. Wills has played in 2 games. Conklin has yet to make his season debut. Right guard Wyatt Teller was put on injured reserve after Week 3 because of a knee sprain. Running back Nick Chubb just returned to practice last week as he rehabbed last year's severe knee injury. And Pro Bowl tight end David Njoku sat out 3 straight games because of a right ankle sprain. Njoku returned Sunday but suffered a knee injury. To begin the season, Kevin and Ken tried to incorporate more spread-type formations that Deshaun had got comfortable with during the 2019 to 2020 seasons in Houston, an AFC coach told ESPN. Allows him to make quick decisions and make some unscripted first downs with his legs. The injuries to the Browns' offensive line and Njoku have caused them to adjust. Watson has said returning to Pro Bowl form is a matter of time and getting more reps on the field. During the first week of training camp, General Manager Andrew Berry said the team's biggest focus was making sure Watson stayed healthy. "I think the rest will take care of itself," Berry said. The Raiders game, albeit a loss, seemed like a possible turning point for Watson, who completed 24 of 32 passes for 176 yards, 1 touchdown and an interception. His 40.2 QBR was a season high. A perfectly placed pass to Cooper bounced off his chest and was intercepted by Las Vegas, helping put Cleveland in a 10-point hole. Later in the fourth quarter, Watson evaded a cornerback blitz and delivered a pass while being hit to Cooper for an 82-yard, go-ahead touchdown that was negated by a holding penalty. It was the type of play Browns fans have seen in highlights of his Houston days. Vintage Watson, as many on social media have called it, and had been yearning for more consistently in Cleveland. On the offense's final play of the game, a 4th and 3 from the 9-yard line, Watson was sacked before releasing a pass. Cooper later said he was the first read on the play and could have run a better route. What could have been a defining moment in Watson's Cleveland tenure instead was another frustrating loss. Then came the offense's latest flop Sunday. Watson finished the Commanders' game with an 8.5 QBR, his third start with a total QBR under 10 since joining the Browns, tied with Zach Wilson and Mac Jones for the most by any starting quarterback in that span. As Watson has faced criticism for the Browns' offensive struggles, Cooper has come to Watson's defense and did so again after the loss to the Commanders. "To be honest, I don't think Deshaun is the problem at all," he said. "I think we can all just play better for him." A week before the start of the 2024 season, the Browns restructured Watson's contract to create cap space, converting $44.79 million of his $46 million base salary into a signing bonus. Cleveland is already projected to be $52 million over the cap for the 2025 season, according to the roster management system. The Browns are expected to carry over the majority of the additional space to remain cap compliant ahead of the 2025 offseason, a team source told ESPN. The move, though, created $172 million and $99 million dead cap hits in 2025 and 2026 if Cleveland were to part ways with Watson. Last offseason, the Denver Broncos took on a league-record $85 million dead cap charge to release quarterback Russell Wilson in what is considered one of the worst trades in NFL history. Cleveland would double that dead cap hit to get rid of Watson. Stefanski has said Watson will remain the Browns' starting quarterback, and Berry has spoken about keeping Watson around for multiple contracts, but Cleveland's high-risk gamble becomes more glaring as his poor play worsens. "We've just got to catch a rhythm," Watson said Sunday. "I think that's the biggest thing. We've just got to find what are we great at, what are we good at. We're trying to figure out what type of offense and identity we want to be at. But the time is ticking and we've got to figure that out quickly."
Audio Jungle.
Yeah.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SNN Sports. I'm your host, Kennedy Lucas, and we're back here with our two topics of conversation here today. We hope that you guys enjoyed the episode thus far. It's been an interesting week. If you guys missed the last episode, we talked about WWE Bad Blood, and now we're getting back into the habits, of making sure that we talk a little bit more when it comes down to WWE. And here's the recap highlights from Monday Night Raw. Of course, Monday Night Raw, let me tell you, any type of WWE show that's after a major pay-per-view. Of course, Bad Blood was here at State Farm Arena down the street from the studio, and we were able to get tickets and to see and to do a whole little spiel there on Saturday. Now, the pressure's on. The pressure's on to T. A lot of people are watching Raw now that a lot of people make their surprises. They're back, and now this is the follow-up from the pay-per-view. Very, very sad to see about the first beginning of the episode, beginning of the show. CM Punk comes out, and when he comes out, he is, announced that he's hurt. He's not going to be kind of returning back to the ring so very quickly. He's sustained a lot of injuries, and it just really goes to show that a lot of our favorite superstars that are getting a little bit older, and I say this very loosely, y'all, because I don't think that CM Punk is old. I don't. I think he's getting to where it's very impactful. His body is saying something else now. His body is deflecting a little bit. His body is changing because he's been in this wrestling game for a very long time now. And to see that we had a gruesome match from Bad Blood, him versus Drew McIntyre, is one of those things that it gets very impactful. And he's seeing a lot of effects from it. So, of course, he makes the announcement that, hey, he's back out hurt again. And it's really interesting because this is his second time getting hurt. He's going to be gone for a while. I don't know if he's leaning towards more into more of the storyline to say, hey, I'm hurt. I ain't going to be returning. This is going to be it for us for now. Or this is part of the storyline because now they have something else. I think it could be something where it's part of the storyline, right? Because you got to think of it, when WWE tells a good story, it's very, very impactful, and there's so much you can do with a feud. Right? You had CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. They've been having this feud since WrestleMania, since April. And now it's time to figure out what Drew McIntyre could do next. Of course, Seth Rollins comes out, and then there's another impact when it comes down to it as well. Very, very exciting to see Seth Rollins back in actions, back into the storm of things, because he's also one of my favorites. And I can't wait to see what goes on to that. I honestly do think we might see a Punk Rollins feud. It may not be as soon as we think it is, but it's going to be a feud to where it's going to be very impactful. We are in the month of October, right? So we've got quite a few more pay-per-views before WrestleMania 41, and I don't know. My predictions is maybe they might do something for WrestleMania, right? CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. I think this would be very impactful. You've got two highly decorated superstars within the industry that is very hungry for more. We saw the background footage of CM Punk when he goes back in the back of the curtain, and he's devastated, right? Because he's back hurt again. He has to get healed up. He's been injured and he's been hurt from the match from Bad Blood. He has to get healed up. And then once he's done healing up, you got to go through therapy. You got to get retrained again to get your body right and get it back to where it needs to be. Right? So it's just one of those things that does happen. Very sad because I wanted to see more from CM Punk when it comes down to his storyline. But hey, he's getting to that caliber where he's getting a little bit older now. Right now, we also saw, of course, the Pete Dunne and Sheamus match. I'm looking at their Instagram. Shout out to WWE's Instagram. This was a glorious match. Of course, they gave their life. They gave their life on the line. Pete Dunne and Sheamus, they're doing their thing out there, T. And to see that we really got some great stuff out of that match for sure. Going through, it was a tough night for Sheamus because he's going through medical. His back is stripped up, like it's been beaten. And he's like, hey, my neck hurts, my back hurts, everything hurts. But I kind of like it when WWE get more behind the scenes, y'all. They get more behind the scenes when it comes down to it because it's something that we get excited for because it's real. right? They're going through the pain. They're doing it for the sake of entertainment. They're doing it because not only is their job, but they're doing it because they are superstars, right? And then, of course, within the match, Sheamus' hands got tied up behind his back with zip ties. He did the bro kick twice to win the match. Very, very talented. I can see Sheamus. And I'm glad that Sheamus is kind of getting, and I say this with all honesty and humbleness, y'all, on the show. I'm glad that Sheamus is getting back into shape. When he came back, he didn't quite look himself. He looked like he's had a few. And, you know, everybody reacted really, really badly with it. And I'm sure it hit it home for him. And he was able to get his body back into the shape that he needs to do with a hard workout and then really getting back into it and getting back to the matches here. It's good to see him back in shape and doing his thing. I get very, very ecstatic when I see stuff like that, and when you've gained the weight a little bit, but then you're kind of losing the weight very, very quickly because you're back with another new contract. Xavier Woods' match against Jey Uso was very, very impactful. I think Xavier Woods has proven some things, right? I'm glad to see that he's getting more of screen time when it comes down to it. I get very, very excited for that because it's very interesting to me because I know Jey Uso has the opportunity to be really good. Xavier Woods has the opportunity to be very, very good too. When Xavier Woods, when he started wrestling with WWE, I was not too sure of him, right? I thought he was going to be kind of a gimmicky kind of character, but now you're seeing him a little bit more out as a wrestler. And I don't shame him too much because obviously he's from Atlanta, here in Atlanta. I'm glad that he's getting more opportunities because I think Xavier Woods has the potential to be champion. Maybe not world heavyweight champion so far, right? Maybe not that quite just yet. But I see him getting an IC championship. I want to see more of that, right? Because we don't know what the New Day is going to do. We don't know how they're going to be still be within each other and still be a faction because Big E, he's out for a while. I don't think we're going to see Big E come back. He's hurt and there's something physically with his body, something's wrong. So I don't think we're going to see Big E as part of the New Day, probably as a what they call a valet, but I don't see Big E coming back into the light of things and being healthy enough to be back inside the ring and start inside the square circle. But I'm very happy that Xavier Woods has the opportunity to shine. Not only he's promoting his gaming channel, of course, at Bad Blood, he was there promoting Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero, which of course I pre-ordered, by the way. So I get very, very excited for that. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what goes down to that. Of course, Gunther has retained his championship against Sami Zayn. Of course, it was a choke out, and then Sami Zayn was out. He was knocked out cold. Again, Gunther's on this wave right now. It's going to be very, very exciting. I think we might see a Gunther versus Goldberg. Obviously, at Bad Blood, Goldberg made an impact there and got into the ring and got into some prizes that we got for Gunther as well. So the ring general, he's here to stay. He's proven himself very worthy, and he's doing it out really well. Sami Zayn, we hope that he gets his championship back and has that light of things back again, but we'll have to see what happens within Sami Zayn's outlook and his experience. And that was the recap of Monday Night Raw, a very impactful show. We've got some surprise matches coming out the gate with it. I think this is very interesting for Monday Night Raw, so we'll have to continue to watch SmackDown to see what SmackDown does on Friday nights. And of course, we cannot wait until WWE finally hits Netflix starting in January, so that way we can be ready for more action-packed. Keep it locked here, guys, on SNN Sports. We're going to be dabbling more into WWE when it comes down to the show of things. Now, on to the top story that every sports channel was talking about today. And now finally we get to talk about it tonight. Pat McAfee talked about it. ESPN and First Take talked about it. Everybody talks about it. And I wanted to talk about this one simply because if you guys don't know me with my NFL teams, I think I'm starting to not become a Giants fan because they're just having a rough year, having a rough season this time around. But my other favorite team, and I rep for any team that's from New York because I love New York. It's Atlanta, New York, and a little bit of California, right? Those are my top teams. Robert Saleh has been fired from the Jets. That is the head coach for the Jets. Mid-season, y'all. Mid-season. This is very, very impactful. Now, I'm reading quotes here in what turned out to be his final news conference as head coach of the New York Jets. Robert Saleh told reporters Monday morning, so the other morning or yesterday morning, "I'm not panicked. Nobody in the building is panicked." He was wrong. 24 hours later, owner Woody Johnson entered the building and informed Saleh that he has been terminated after a 2-3 start to the season. The first in-season head coaching moved in Johnson's 25 years of ownership. Obvious question is, will this move stun an unprecedented change of anything for the New York Jets? I think the Jets has been doing pretty good. They haven't won a whole bunch of matches, right? There's been some things that the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, they're working on. But I honestly got to say, based off what I've seen, right? Because I know a lot of other sports channels and other sports shows will tell you a little bit different from their analytics. But my analyst mind says that the Jets haven't been that terrible. They haven't been that great, but they haven't been that terrible. So I get very, very sad when I saw this today because you fired a head coach within season. I don't think, and that happens, right? I got to say that happens to a lot of people who have a lot of ownership, who owns teams, and they want to make a change, and they have to abide by the owner's wishes, right? Whether if you're the general manager of the Jets, you're going to listen to your owner and say, "Hey, we want him gone." He's going to get gone or you're going to get gone. So which one do you want? So I don't know. It's mind blowing to me. It's mid-season with the current season right now. But this is kind of what I've been saying in other shows of mine, that when you are a coach of a team, you have to it's all about the numbers. It's all about the performance, right? You rely on your players to perform well so that way you have that job security. That's the obvious answer to a lot of things. Now, will replacing the defensive-minded coach with a defensive-minded intern, defense coordinator Jeff Ulbrich revitalize a team whose greatest failings is the offense. Very, very, I don't know. The decision of Saleh belonged to Johnson, a team source said, and the reason is because he wanted to try something to save the season before it got away from them. Like so many others have, they haven't made the playoffs in 13 years, the NFL's longest active drought. I get it. I got to say, I get it, guys. I get it that as ownership, because let me tell you, and I'm sure a lot of other sports, Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp and them, they'll probably say the same thing. It's all about performance. When you make it to the playoffs, when you win a Super Bowl, not only you got the cameras on you, but sponsorships come in. And when sponsorships come in, money comes in, right? Money comes in for the growth, whether it's from merchandising, ticket sales. But if you make it to the Super Bowl, now you're the hottest team of the division, the hottest team in the league right now. So there's a lot of attention. You got to believe it. Kansas City Chiefs have a lot of attention. That's why you see a lot of the commercials, right? You can see the Patrick Mahomes commercial. You get the Travis Kelce commercials. Hell, you even might see, of course, Travis Kelce's brother, Jason Kelce, on some stuff because that's, brother to brother relation there. There's a lot of money that comes onto going to the Super Bowl, going to playoffs, and being the best supported team, right? But I think a lot of New York Jets fans are upset about this because Saleh has made some great impact. Him and Aaron Rodgers, they worked together on the season and they wanted to perfect some things. And I honestly got to say, I've seen some great stuff from them. I've seen a lot of great things when it comes down to the Jets team this season. There's been a lot of changes and I'm happy about these changes, but it is very, very sad to see. Everyone knew this stakes at the start of the season. Win now or else. It was widely assumed that Saleh, who finished the 2036 record, would get 1 year to capitalize on a rapid closing with a window for his 40-year-old quarterback. Of course, Aaron Rodgers being 40 years old, he's the oldest quarterback in the league right now. Essentially, Johnson amplified his senses of urgency back in February when he told reporters that he was furious with the last season's 7-10 finish. He added, "This is it. This is the time to go. We've got to produce this year." You can't get mad at it, Jets fans. I'm a Jets fan, and I'm pretty sad about this. I think he'll find another job at another team. I'm pretty sure. I think he's going to be covered in that regard. I'm very interested to see who's going to coach this team in the remaining of the season, because we're mid-season right now. We are mid-season with the NFL season right now. So I am very, very interested to see how these things are going to turn out, how they're going to pan out. My well wishes to Robert Saleh. He's coached a lot of great players. He's coached a lot of things. He's been in this for a while. I think this is going to be it's sad right now for Jets fans, but I honestly think that this is going to be, I don't know. We'll have to see, because when you hire a new coach, now I got to say that expectation is on them. Whoever that new coach is, new head coach rather, that attention is on them, right? They have to perform, because owners can make cuts just like that. Hey, here's your severance package. We got to get you gone. I'm sorry, you're out. So I don't know. It's one of those things that's very interesting. We'll keep an eye out and see the updates for the New York Jets. Very sad. When I saw the news today, I was really, really sad about it, simply because, I'm a Jets fan and I just want to see them prevail and do some really, really good stuff. But we'll have to see what happens with that, to say the least, to see what happens within the New York Jets team. So my shout outs to them for sure. Now we're going to send it to Andrew out there in the studio for SNN Sports. Take it away, Andrew.
Thank you, Kennedy, for that update. Here's another top story: why Miami Dolphins offense has floundered without Tagovailoa. After snapping a 3-game losing streak with a 15-10 victory over the New England Patriots on Sunday, Miami Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel made an interesting observation. The Dolphins, known for their league-leading offense in 2023, had become a defensive team. Such is the state of Miami's offense 5 weeks into the season. After leading the NFL in yards last season, Miami is ranked 21st through 5 games this season and is averaging a league-worst 12.3 points per game. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was placed on injured reserve on September 17 after suffering the 3rd diagnosed concussion of his career, and he's not eligible to return until Week 8. McDaniel said there haven't been any red flags with Tagovailoa in the 2 weeks since, but added that he won't fully progress through the protocol until after his IR stint is over. Miami turned to Skylar Thompson following Tagovailoa's injury, and then to Tyler Huntley, who the team signed off the Baltimore Ravens practice squad when Thompson was knocked out of his first start against the Seattle Seahawks. Neither has been able to jumpstart an offense that was supposed to be among the league's best this season. Thompson beat out Mike White for the number 2 job this summer, and both players had been with the team for multiple seasons. With Thompson, Miami believed it had a quarterback who possessed command of McDaniel's offense and whose teammates positively responded to him whenever he was in the huddle. Ultimately, McDaniel said he made the decision on Thompson when he entered the team's final preseason game this year. "I saw teammates believe in him, and I saw teammates get off the bench during the drive and start getting close to the white," McDaniel said. "Those are all the things that, for me, is what I'm evaluating, because just going back to what is the actual job of your backup, and I thought it was a cool moment." While McDaniel said Thompson had developed greatly since his rookie season in 2022, the results were poor in his start against the Seahawks. He completed 13 of 19 passes for 107 yards and a 6.1 QBR in the loss to Seattle. It's reasonable to criticize the Dolphins for not having a more experienced veteran, but the team was also reasonable in having higher expectations for a player entering his 3rd year in their system. Thompson won his 2nd career start in 2022, a win-or-go-home contest against the New York Jets in Miami's regular season finale. He was also serviceable in the Dolphins' loss to the Buffalo Bills the following week in the AFC wildcard round. His numbers weren't pretty: 18 of 45 for 220 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, but the Dolphins lost a playoff game in Buffalo by 3 points with a 7th-round rookie at quarterback. It was enough to inspire optimism moving forward, even if he spent all 19 games in 2023 as a healthy scratch on game day. He has ran our plays in a walkthrough setting probably more than anybody on our team, McDaniel said on September 19. He's done that for a calendar year incessantly, and the results are there is a broader chest in the huddle. McDaniel also said that practice squad quarterback Tim Boyle's personality made him a good fit for the room, based on what he'd heard from mutual acquaintances in light of recent examples of teams having success with backup QBs like Matt LaFleur's with Malik Willis in Green Bay. Why has the Dolphins' offense struggled so much with Tagovailoa out? The Dolphins' offense was struggling long before Tagovailoa's injury. In 11 games since hanging 45 points on the Washington Commanders in Week 13 of last season, the Dolphins' offense has scored 30 points once. They scored fewer than 20.7 times in that span. Miami were without receivers Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill in 4 of their final 5 games last season due to various injuries, highlighting a need for a third receiving option. The Dolphins signed Odell Beckham Jr. and Jonnu Smith to fill that void, but their integration had not materialized before Tagovailoa's injury. Beckham started the season on the physically unable to perform list after offseason knee surgery, while Smith and Tagovailoa had played just a game and a half together, with minimal preseason snaps. Thus, one of the Dolphins' largest issues on offense was exacerbated by breaking in multiple quarterbacks in a 3-week span. Before their win over the Patriots, the Dolphins also weren't getting much out of their run game. Since Week 3, Miami's -.30 average rushing yards over expectation ranks 24th in the NFL. It also ranks 17th in average yards before contact, 2.35, but last in average yards after contact, 0.65. Statistically speaking, Miami's offensive line has been average in terms of creating lanes, but its running backs haven't been able to shed tackles. Miami has the most expensive wide receiver core in the league. What responsibility does it and Miami's other playmakers shoulder for the offense's poor performances? Hill and Waddle are each on pace to finish the season with fewer than 1,000 receiving yards, which would mark the first time this tandem has done so in a Dolphins uniform. While some of their production can be attributed to instability at quarterback, Waddle said Miami's playmakers have to do their part in helping whichever quarterback is in the game. McDaniel said the responsibility for the Dolphins' offense doesn't fall on one player, especially in adverse situations. When you have injuries, when you have adjustments in the lineup, people have to step up, he said. If they're executing their jobs at 90% generally, it needs to be 95 to 98, and we're not getting that right now. So bottom line is that it's definitely not one person, and there's a lot of things that are going on in the pass game that have to do with line of scrimmage. A lot of things on the line of scrimmage have to do with the receivers and the eligibles getting open in the timing of the play, so collectively we just need to do a much better job. According to Next Gen Stats, the Dolphins' pass catchers have been open, 3+ yards of separation, on 54.5% of their routes this season, but their -151 receiving yards over expectation is the 4th worst in the NFL. This suggests a lack of chemistry with their quarterback, which is to be expected considering Huntley's experience in this offense. Hill said the onus is on Miami's receivers to make plays happen once they get the ball in their hands. Whenever it's time to make a play, just make a play within a play. Don't go outside the techniques and fundamentals that you've already been taught, Hill said. It doesn't mean go outside of what you're doing or run the wrong route, because that throws off a lot of quarterback timing. If you run a slant route, catch the slant route and do a little bit extra, get jiggy with it and take it to the house. That means you got to give a little bit more effort to get open, not just get the catch and just get a first down. How about let's extend that, take it 70 yards, or take it 50 yards. That's 95% to me. What's the plan for the offense going forward? Will Miami look to make additional moves at QB? For now, the plan is to continue with Huntley as the team's starter. McDaniel said the Dolphins' upcoming bye week will be critical for Huntley's acclimation into the offense. It's huge, McDaniel said after the Patriots game. You're playing catch-up the whole time that you're playing football, and you're knowing your responsibilities, you're knowing what the pass concepts are, and now you have a chance to really study the strengths and weaknesses of certain things. You have to orchestrate a lot of moving parts, and I thought he did a good job handling all that. He has done a phenomenal job really since he's been here, but it was a step forward today for sure. With Sunday's win over the Patriots, Miami has a chance to claw its way back to .500 if it beats the Colts in Week 7, far from the worst-case scenario it could have faced in Tagovailoa's absence. There's still no word as to when Tagovailoa will return, if at all, but his stay on injured reserve will last until at least Week 8. McDaniel said on Monday that Tagovailoa would continue to meet with specialists during the Dolphins' bye week. How reasonable is it to change large parts of the offensive scheme? McDaniel knows what it's like to change an offense for a player. He was an offensive assistant for a Washington team that had to recreate its playbook for Robert Griffin III in 2012. But that's not something he feels is necessary for the Dolphins without Tagovailoa. McDaniel said the framework of Miami's offense allows for some wrinkles based on personnel, but he doesn't believe the team is executing well enough to say with conviction that the quarterback is incapable of running it. It just feels like an offense that's not good enough generally, and whether that's coaching or playing, we're all in it together, he said. It's a bottom-line business. I think there's strengths and weaknesses that everybody provides. Half the time you could say the plays don't matter what I call until we have 11 people executing something in one direction. I think there's perfectly capable players to do the things that we're asking them to do going into the game. Even during the bye week, don't expect widespread changes to the Dolphins' offensive playbook. Instead, they want Huntley to use the time to expand his command of the offense.
Audio Jungle.
In the streets, so don't stop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the hallways, don't get the drop. So don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the hallways, don't time to flop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the hallways, don't get the drop. So don't stop now. DJs, LMP, just right now. In the hallways, don't time to flop now. In the streets, don't stop now. DJs, LMP. Just right now, in the hallways, don't get the drop. Don't stop how deep is LMP. Just right now, in the hallways, don't get the drop.
Chiefs help prove WR megadeals may not be Super Bowl formula. Former Texas Longhorns wide receiver Xavier Worthy turned heads in March when he broke the scouting combine's 40-yard dash record with a time of 4.21 seconds. One team, in particular, saw a perfect fit. The Kansas City Chiefs originally held the 32nd pick in this year's draft, but they traded up with the Buffalo Bills to acquire Worthy at number 28. They paired him with MVP quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who has seen his receiving corps go from featuring one of the league's best and highest-paid receivers in Tyreek Hill to one who was significantly cheaper. The vision for Worthy is we have him for 5 years now, and that's a big deal for us as we try to keep this thing together and add pieces, Chiefs general manager Brett Veach said shortly after the draft. Those playmakers are hard to come by, and they're expensive in the offseason. The move underscored a split in the NFL in terms of investing in wide receivers. While some teams like the Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Cowboys, and Miami Dolphins have set records with WR contracts this year, others like the Chiefs prefer cost-friendly options. Data indicates the big spenders often don't realize their desired return on investment. Since 2017, only 2 teams have invested a top 5 salary cap charge in their wide receiver core and made a conference championship, the 2020 AFC finalists, Kansas City and Buffalo. It's completely out of whack, one NFC executive told ESPN. I think the reason why teams spend big is because you draft and develop a player who becomes great, and he's got chemistry with his quarterback. But you can find a lot of good receivers every year in the draft. Consider, 7 receivers were taken in the first round this year, tied with 2004 for the most ever. Arizona Cardinals rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. is tied with the Vikings' Justin Jefferson and New York Jets' Allen Lazard for the 3rd most TD receptions in the league with 4, while New York Giants rookie Malik Nabers leads the NFL with 35 receptions. And 3 of the top 11 players on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board for 2025 are wide receivers. Colorado's Travis Hunter also plays cornerback. Jefferson set the record for the richest NFL contract ever by a non-quarterback when he signed a 4-year extension worth $140 million, including $110 million in potential guarantees. Dallas CeeDee Lamb signed a deal for the same length for $136 million. The 10 most expensive WR deals are worth a grand total of $1.06 billion. Other than Jefferson and Lamb, for other receivers signed deals for at least $30 million per year, including the Philadelphia Eagles' A.J. Brown, $32 million, Detroit Lions' Amon-Ra St. Brown, $30.002 million, San Francisco 49ers' Brendan Ayuk, $30 million, and Hill, $30 million. The Cincinnati Bengals' Jamar Chase saw the market explode and hoped to top Jefferson's mark. A contentious negotiation for a contract extension made it unclear heading into the season whether Chase would play this year, but he ultimately chose to play days before the opener. His rookie deal, which expires after the 2025 season, will pay him $9.8 million this year. Chase has no plans to negotiate a long-term deal during the season, league sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter. He also has taken out a $50 million insurance policy on himself for the season to safeguard against injury and any potential lost earnings. The Chiefs have experienced success on both sides of the equation, largely due to having a three-time MVP in Mahomes. They signed Hill to a 3-year deal worth $54 million in 2019, and they won the Super Bowl the following year. Hill was traded in 2022 to the Dolphins, who signed him to a deal worth $120 million, more than double his previous contract. Kansas City went on to win back-to-back Super Bowls. Miami hasn't won a playoff game since 2000, the longest active drought in the league, although quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's concussion issues impacted the 2022 postseason. Tagovailoa, who also was extended this offseason, is again on injured reserve because of a concussion. The Dolphins signed Jalen Waddle to an extension worth $28.3 million per year in May as they tried to surround Tagovailoa with as many top-tier weapons as possible. This year, Miami is spending the most of any team in the NFL on the wide receiver position, but largely because of Tagovailoa's injury, the Dolphins are 2-3 and rank 32nd in points per game, 12.0. Similarly, the Eagles extended wide receiver Devonta Smith with a 3-year, $75 million deal in April, and then extended quarterback Jalen Hurts. Former Atlanta Falcons general manager Thomas Dimitroff can relate to that philosophy. When the Falcons went to Super Bowl 51 with Matt Ryan at quarterback, Atlanta carried the league's second-highest salary cap charge on wide receivers at $21.9 million, according to Roster Management System. The reality of it for me at the time, even though Matt was a few years in, I always knew I was going to do all in my power to provide Matt with the right offensive firepower to help him evolve into the quarterback that he wanted to become, Dimitroff recently told ESPN. The Falcons lost in the divisional round the year after losing in the Super Bowl, and they haven't been back to the playoffs since. They traded Ryan in 2022. The cost of a quarterback who is not on a rookie contract can impact how a team navigates the salary cap, including at wide receiver. Tagovailoa and Hill combined for a quarter of the Dolphins' total projected cap space in 2025, according to Roster Management System. Miami is already $3.7 million over a projected salary cap of $272 million for 2025, despite having only 36 players under salary. At this year's scouting combine, Cincinnati de facto general manager Duke Tobin said a team under such constraints has to be judicious with money and determine what's needed and what is wanted. Besides Chase, the Bengals also have been unable to reach a long-term deal with receiver T. Higgins. It's a finite pie, and we slice it up a lot of different ways, Tobin said. We want to keep as many good players as we can, but there's always hard decisions to make as you go through a roster building. Where a quarterback is in his development plays a key role. When Buffalo was one of the big spenders on wide receivers in 2020, quarterback Josh Allen was in his 3rd season. General manager Brandon Beane said at that time the Bills wanted to trade for a receiver who could help Allen. They acquired Stephon Diggs from Minnesota, who had an all-pro season with the Bills in 2020 and helped turn Allen into an MVP candidate. The impetus for that move, Beane said, was a wild-card loss to the Houston Texans in 2019 in Allen's 2nd season. 5 years later, the Bills traded Diggs to Houston. Now that Josh has ascended to the player he is having an expensive number 1 receiver a requirement? Beane said in April. I don't think so. Only time will tell whether this year's receiver spending spree helps teams looking to pursue postseason success. But if last season is any indication, it is anything but a sure thing. In 2023, 11 teams carried a salary cap charge of $25 million or more for their wide receivers. 3 of those teams made the playoffs. None of them made it past the divisional round. Worthy, meanwhile, scored his 4th touchdown of the season Monday night against the New Orleans Saints as the Chiefs, who ranked 20th in cap hit for wide receivers, improved to 5-0.
Audio Jungle.
In the streets, so don't stop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, LMP. Just like now, in the hallways, those to drop. So don't stop now. DJs, LMP. Just like now, in the hallways, those time to flop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, LMP. Just like now, in the hallways, those time to flop. So don't stop now. DJs, LMP. Just like now, in the hallways, those time to flop now. In the streets, don't stop now. DJs, LMP.